Hi, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with Dr. Jay Harness. I'm your host, Jay Harness, and it's really my privilege today to have a really unique person to be interviewed and have a wonderful discussion with us. She's Vicki Wolf. Vicki is a four-time breast cancer survivor and a carrier of the BRCA2 gene. Her journey with breast cancer began at, oh my word, age 37, shortly after her mother's diagnosis of breast cancer. Well, not as was all lost because this experience, along with her brother's breast cancer diagnosis, inspired Vicki to act and to make a difference. Together with her brother Harvey, she established his breast cancer awareness site, which is there to break the stigma surrounding male breast cancer and to provide essential resources to those affected. Vicki, it is truly a pleasure to have you with me today and a real privilege.
Thank you, and thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about my story and my history.
Yeah, well, why don't you just pretend we're just meeting for the first time and let's share with our audience your backstory.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, I am a four-time breast cancer survivor. When I was 37, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. And about a month later, I went for a mammogram and found out that I was carrying DCIS breast cancer as well. Um, I had about a year and a half after the lumpectomy at that point, and with follow-up surveillance, discovered that I had a new breast cancer diagnosis again, still DCIS, but a whole new makeup and tumors. So again, lumpectomy. I thought I was young and I guess naive and thinking I still, my mom was in her 80s, my aunt was in her 80s. So I had a lot of time before I really had to focus on something like breast cancer. Um, and I got as far as about 10 years. In 2005, at the age of 47, I was diagnosed for my third diagnosis of breast cancer. This time it was invasive, thankfully caught early because we were under surveillance there. I was doing mammograms every 6 months at that time. And in visiting with an oncologist, I noticed a brochure about genetic testing.
Ah,
Never really heard of it before that point. Um, and so I, said that's something I think I want to look into more. I would like that information, if not for myself. I have three sons and hopefully grandchildren down the road, and it would just be good information to have. And that's when I discovered that I also carry the BRCA2 genetic mutation. Her sister had breast cancer. Um, Also a uterine cancer diagnosis. They lost two brothers in their 40s to other cancers.
oh,
So
wow.
cancer,
Yeah, so it
rampant
was,
on my mother's side. So we knew that that's where the mutation came from.
yeah, very, and the reason I bring that up is, it could also come on the father's side, and that's
Absolutely.
why that's why I brought it up. So
Yes.
besides you as and your brother,
I
keep on with the story because this is really fascinating.
Okay, so I shared with my brother that I carried the genetic mutation. I actually have two brothers, two older brothers, and told them what that meant and could mean for them with higher risk of, early onset prostate cancer, melanomas,
Sure.
pancreatic, and of course the addition of male breast cancer. In addition, I have three sons. They were, college age, high school college ages, and I shared that with them, but that's not something they were even thinking about. It wasn't on their
Yeah.
radar. Um, so fast forward after, so that was in 2005. And then in 2008, my brother, Harvey, was diagnosed with breast cancer. Of course, then he was tested and discovered he also carried the BRCA2 mutation. And then in 2010, he was also diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Wow. Wow.
So all stemming from the genetic,
Yeah.
behind it.
And
Uh,
thank you for pointing out the other cancers. That's really important to our audience as well. You and I tend to think of BRCA as just being breast, but we know that it really is far more than breast. So thank you for bringing that
Absolutely.
up.
Yes. So, at that point, when I found out about the genetic mutation, I did have a full hysterectomy. And so I was on tamoxifen, I had done radiation. So I really thought, I'm ahead of the game here. I'm also very health-minded. I make healthy choices, I exercise. It's my whole lifestyle has always been that direction. Um, Obviously, the BRCA mutation puts a little crimp in that and says that things aren't all in my control, but I still believe wholeheartedly that that helps make a difference. But we'll talk more about that later. Um, but again, 10 years later, I was diagnosed again with what was my fourth diagnosis of breast cancer. And at that point, I did have a full mastectomy. I am on Arimidex. I take an aromatase inhibitor to again prevent the, production of estrogen and hormones. I also had chemotherapy, went through a treatment of that. So, that's where I am at this point in time.
How about your
So
sons, Vicky?
at this point, all three of my sons have been tested. They are now four. I have twin boys, identical twin boys that just turned 40, and a 43 year old son. My older son does not carry the genetic mutation. My identical twin boys, unfortunately, do.
Yeah,
And I had them test together because for me it meant that if one had it, the other one,
sure.
because they are identical, and I wanted them to get that information firsthand, not from, his sibling or
Yeah, and it's important to point out that with each child, there's a 50-50 chance that they would inherit the gene. So you have really got quite a story. I mean, it's just
yeah.
from the beginning, from DCIS forward to where we're at now. What length of time are we talking about, Vicky?
Well, I was 37 and I'm 67. So
All right,
30
30
years
years.
later, here I
Yeah,
am.
and I would contend that one of the reasons you look so fabulous today is not only that you've had good health care, but you've also led a very healthy lifestyle, have exercised regularly, et cetera, et cetera.
I have.
And it ends up, Vicky, that probably 90% of my colleagues, sadly even still today, really don't know that much at all about the science that's behind exercise oncology. They're not aware of the 30 plus years of clinical trials that have clearly demonstrated the value of exercise, not only when you're initially diagnosed during active treatment, but particularly in the long-term survivorship, lowering recurrence rates, improving survival, particularly lowering all-cause mortality, things of that sort. Well,
Absolutely.
you're a remarkable, remarkable story. So tell us some more about your His Awareness site. I'm anxious to hear about that, and we want to promote that for you. Okay.
Thank you. Well, after I learned about mentioned my third diagnosis and the genetic mutation, and then 2 years later, Harvey being diagnosed with male breast cancer, I could help him along the way with whatever test or biopsy, what the next steps were going to be. However, being a man diagnosed with breast cancer, the universe is not really set up nicely for them in this world of pink. Um, and the stigma that goes along with a man being diagnosed, even just his friends, kind of joking, oh, you're going to play golf from the ladies' tees now, or, all said in jest, but it's hard. It's a very pink world out there. Obviously, you mentioned many people in the medical field aren't aware of the exercise benefits. They're not aware that men can be diagnosed with breast cancer. So it's so unfortunate but common how often we are in a conversation or my brother's going for a test or a treatment and they look down at his chart and they're like, breast cancer. I didn't know a guy could get that,
Uh,
and you're in the medical world. You're a nurse practitioner, radiology, medical doctors, and it's sad, but they just really aren't taught very much about it. Um, so for Harvey and I, we decided we needed to do something different about that and make a place where men could actually start to learn more and know that they are not alone with this diagnosis and that, it's okay to talk about it. We compare male breast cancer often to the way it was for women back in 1950. If a woman was diagnosed with breast cancer, it was very hush hush that way for men because there's an embarrassment and there's that
sure,
stigma. And
sure,
so we were the first to develop an organization focused on male breast cancer and, of course, have also the inclusion of hereditary cancers because of us both carrying the BRCA2 mutation. Not only are we there for the education, and awareness about male breast cancer, but we're there for the support of those that are diagnosed, or caretakers that are helping men go through this diagnosis. We have a Facebook support group that is a private group. And, we have pamphlets, we have, awareness materials. We work with a lot of other organizations and educational facilities to help expand the knowledge on male breast cancer. So his breast cancer awareness is HIS, and there's a reason it is called that. Um, when we first started to put this together, I looked at my brother one day and I said, okay, I know you always hated your middle name, but it had a purpose. And my brother's initials are HIS.
I'll be darned. Okay,
So that's where his breast cancer awareness came from. And our colors are pink and blue because we want to bring some blue into this world
sure.
of pink. We've been part of a full length documentary called Pink and Blue: Colors of Hereditary Cancer. I will say that even my sons, and all three of them, but especially the two that carry the genetic mutation, are all very health-minded. Exercise is important to my whole family, especially because I guess they grew up in that. One day there were regular potato chips in the house, and another day there was only, the health food brand potato chips. And that's pretty much what they've learned
Oh,
and accept. And so, and they choose to, follow that lifestyle, and they all perform self breast exams,
yep.
uh, monthly, which is something that we really, here's the thing with male breast cancer. Nobody's looking. Most people don't have a doctor that's checking that. Even though they have your health history and may know your mother, your aunt, your grandmother, your grandfather, whatever, had different cancers. It's up to you. It's up to you to be your own advocate. And, so on the website, we give instructions with a male diagram how to perform a breast exam. I also will add that on the website, we do have a section under well-being, and we do offer quite a bit of information there with the ideas of how can you help prevent or slow the progression, or if you're going through chemotherapy treatments, like we tell everybody, you do what you can do when you can do it. If you feel up to it while you're going through a treatment, take a walk, do what you can. There's those days you can accept that aren't great days, and it's okay. It's okay to do that. But when you feel up to it, do what you can.
There you go. Well, Vicki, the world is very fortunate to have you and your family making the contributions that you're making. The
Thank you.
website address is what for his?
Uh, www.hisbreastcancer.org.
Yeah, there you go. And you've been so articulate and so wonderful to interview. Any sort of final bullets, if you will, or thoughts you'd like to share with people?
Don't let a cancer diagnosis rule your life. It's up to you to rule that cancer diagnosis.
There
Take
you
charge.
go. There you go. Well, Vicki, well, what a real privilege it's been to have a conversation with you today, if you will.